So we're not allowed to learn about slavery anymore. Or something. Remember the patriotic education thing that Trump tried at the final days of his first administration? The one that was like co-authored by Charlie Kirk or something? And it was basically like, it should be, all historical education in the United States should be predicated on a heroic narrative in which America is perfect and saved everyone and uplifted natives and blacks from poverty and oppression. And things like slavery were outside forces that we actually fought against. And basically racism isn't real and never happened and blah, 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 blah. That whole thing. It feels so insignificant now. Well, this is basically that, right? This is an executive order targeting like one institution. One of the reasons there have been so many executive orders from Trump is that a lot of them don't do anything. They're like, this executive order authorizes a department of the executive branch to investigate something. Or in this case, we're tired of the Smithsonian being woke. President Trump aims to ensure the Smithsonian is an institution that sparks children's imagination, celebrates American history and ingenuity, serves as a symbol to the world of American greatness, and makes America proud. See? Literally, like the straightforward goal is we're not about teaching history here, We want to use this as like a venue for nationalist propaganda. They're very anti-education, which I know isn't new to you guys, but the order directs the vice president, who is a member of the Smithsonian Board of Regents, to work to eliminate improper, divisive, or anti-American ideology from the Smithsonian as its museums, education and research centers, and the National Zoo. The order directs the administration to work with Congress to ensure that future Smithsonian appropriations, 1, prohibit funding for exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans by race, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law, and 2, celebrate women's achievements in the American Women's History Museum and do not recognize men as women. Yeah, so essentially it's just saying like, we will make the Smithsonian look like a, I don't know, BioShock Infinite museum tour, You'll have some animatronics that somehow whitewash the founding fathers. They'll like, you'll shake hands with like a museum operator who shows you like a, I don't know, historic moments and kindness demonstrated by slave owners to their slaves. I don't know. I don't know how far they're going to go with it. The order directs the Secretary of the Interior to restore federal parks, monuments, memorials, statues, etc. that have been improperly removed or changed in the last 5 years, to perpetuate a false revision of history or improperly minimize or disparage certain historical events or figures. So bring back the Confederacy stuff. In the last decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted effort to rewrite American history and force our nation to adopt a factually baseless ideology aimed at diminishing American achievement. President Trump is fighting back by reestablishing truth in the historical narrative and restoring federal sites dedicated to American heritage. The prior administration pushed a divisive ideology that reconstrued America's promotion of liberty as fundamentally flawed, infecting revered institutions like the Smithsonian and national parks with false narratives. At Independence National Historical Park in Philadelphia, the Biden administration sponsored training by an organization that advocates for dismantling, quote, Western foundations, and taught park rangers that their racial identity should dictate how they present history to visitors. The Smithsonian's recently promoted divisive ideology that American and Western values are harmful. The American Art Museum currently features an exhibit that purports to address how sculpture has been a powerful tool in promoting scientific racism, and claims that the U.S. has, quote, used race to establish or maintain systems of power, privilege, and disenfranchisement. Damn, that's a pretty inoffensive statement they're going after here. I'm sorry. I know that the 1984 comparison here is a little bit trite, but the rewriting of history, they're going after it at its roots, right? It's kind of like, I think that a lot of people today still don't really grasp how insane the lost cause narrative is in the United States. Probably about a third of Americans, maybe a quarter, I don't know, are raised. They grow up believing the North started the war. They are taught about it. It is in textbooks. It's not just like being spread from person to person. It's not like, oh, my parents taught it to me that way. You go to school and you are taught the lost cause narrative. It's in the textbooks. It's still there. And I think that if something like that was pushed now, independent of any prior influence, without the inertia, people would recognize it for how insane it is. This is just essentially a continuation of that, right? It goes beyond just, we're going to misconstrue the past in order to reaffirm white supremacist values and defend the South, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, How deep are they trying to cut here? That they take issue with statements like sculpture has been a powerful tool in promoting scientific racism. They just want to flat out prohibit the teaching of any racism at all as a historical force, or certainly a contemporary one, but even a historical force. There's like a cartoon version of American history that people joke about, but really isn't in our textbooks. You know, pilgrims came over and helped the natives. There were black people that came over, but then we freed the black people, blah, 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 blah. For the most part, people aren't taught that because it's just a little too on the nose. They want to teach that. Oh, I remember this one. The National Museum of African American History and Culture has proclaimed that hard work, individualism, and the nuclear family are aspects of white culture. Don't forget time. I remember that single pamphlet written by like a grad student that was briefly introduced and taken back from like 4 years ago. I remember. Oh yeah, and creationism. I wonder if we're going to get that. I wonder if we're going to get like a top-down executive order declaring, like, yeah, actually, we're committing to it. Like, we're no longer allowing the teaching of evolution in our schools. They'll go for it if they can. The problem there is just, Trump himself isn't a Christian. He's certainly not an evangelical. It'd be difficult for him to shift into that kind of language. It's not really congruent with a lot of the other messaging he engages in. He doesn't even care that much about abortion, right? That'd take way more than 4 years. It would. That seems like it's down the line. It's not congruent with existing culture war positions. That being said, an EO banning the teaching of climate change, that seems more likely. Read the actual executive order document. They declared race a biological reality rather than a social construct. Well, yeah, that's like the explicit position. The idea that race is a social construct is like anathema to Republican messaging. Of course they think it's an innate biological characteristic. Man, it's been so long since we've argued race realism. It's been so long since we've gotten on that. They're bringing us back. They're bringing it back. He might ban the teaching of climate change related stuff.
I think this whole thing is a slippery slope.
Good audio.
I question whether or not the executive order can accomplish what he wants. But it scares me that if anything happens to Trump, J.D. Vance is in charge, and he's in charge of this process.
And it's interesting we're standing in front of the Museum of African American History as we do this talk. Do we now take Oprah Winfrey's name off the theater?
Yes, it concerns me. Even in my time, the history, we didn't get a lot of teaching of history. And even now I'm excited about what I learned. The 666, things like, I wasn't taught that. So I make a point of looking at that stuff on TV, reading on it, because I was not taught that, and it really hurts your generations. Because
do you think it was a bit on the nose for them to make this building black? Do you think they thought about that during construction?
Your history is who you are.
Like we're becoming Nazi Germany. It's heartbreaking. This is not who we thought we were, and it appears it's who we are. But I hope that people in Congress will stand up and keep him from doing this.
The history is here as long as people continue to tell the stories. African history, the history of slaves was passed down from generation to generation.
That's largely true. It's really difficult to erase a cultural memory. You know what I mean? Like the broader understanding of slavery and the brutality it entailed and so on and so forth. The fact that America 100% was responsible for that shit. It's pretty difficult to wipe that information out. The main thing that matters, in my opinion, is you just have to keep being loud about it, right? The hope from the administration is that you bowl over 5% of the public conscious, and then the remaining 95% shut up out of fear. And in reality, I mean, if you keep talking about it, it doesn't matter if they do, right? They don't determine what is or isn't true. That's how Democrats lost in 2024. They stopped defending any of the things that they were supposed to be believing in as soon as Biden took office. I doubt it'll work. Comes across as kind of desperate, to be honest. Jackal, I wouldn't take much from that, okay? People in chat are just reflexively contrarian. They always have been. Many days till we find out how cooked we are for real. Stop asking rhetorical questions that you know can't be answered. Assuage your own anxieties. That's not what I'm here for, okay? Look in the mirror. Slap yourself in the cheek.